divides the success stories from the failures is the comfort of embracing that uncertainty. And in the beginning, I was trying very hard to know everything and always know when I would avoid taking a loss. So I know what it's like for you as my students to want to ask me in a lot of different varying ways, but really the blunt question you want to know is, how can I trade, make money, and not lose? And as much as you may want to argue and say, no, that's not how I think, or that's not what I'm asking, you are asking that. That's exactly what everybody wants that. I would be lying if I said I didn't want it. So don't lie to me. Okay. Don't lie to me, because I know I would love to know how to never take a loss. I would love to know that. But you have to be comfortable with choosing these conditions that are more apt to be correct for your model and your personal approach to trading. And that means you're going to have to submit to the idea that your model, with those parameters and filters in place, may not present the opportunity for you today or that trading session. And it doesn't mean it's a bad model. It doesn't mean you're a bad trader. It doesn't mean anything except for you're waiting for your model and all of the things and circumstances that go around trusting that setup with that model, with you as the driver, the operator in that system. So naturally, in the 90s, I got hooked on that because my pay was less than $300 a week, bring home. And I was thinking to myself, man, if I could just do one bond trade per week and just get half of a point, if I could just get lucky enough to find 16 ticks, 16 ticks on one contract in the bond market, that's $500. That's better than going to work. And once I do it, I don't have to do it again because I'm scared to trade, right? Well, that was my whole approach going in, easing into it. And I sat down with him, I explained this whole thing to him today. I said, I was afraid to get into it when I was in the 90s. I mean, it was exciting, but still scary. Like, I don't ride roller coasters. I think they're thrilling to watch other people go nuts and throw their guts up and scream and, probably blow out an intestine and guttural, screams that go down the deepest part of the decline. But I would never get on those things. I don't like them. I have to be in control. I have to be in control of me, the environment that I'm in, and that is not something I would do. And I don't want to treat my trading like that. So I have to be very methodical about what it is I'm looking for. And the way I teach you as my students, I teach that same approach. We're not gambling. We're not inviting happenstance. Okay, so I told him, I said, you're going to trade until you get fatigued. And then as soon as you are like, you just don't know why you're doing it, you just push the button to find out, okay, what happens. That moment, that's what I was waiting for. And I explained to him, I said, that's where everybody blows it. Everybody blows it. At that moment, it's because you have either hurt your account, someone has hurt your feelings or made you angry, or you're sick, or something cost you money that was unexpected. You are using that moment to replace some kind of negative thing that you're going through. Or maybe not even experiencing it yet, but you're afraid of it. You're afraid if something happens, it's looming in the offing. What happens if my girlfriend? What happens if my wife? What happens if my husband leaves me? Well, I won't feel so bad if I can make $1,000 today. When really you'll still hurt because you have emotional commitment to that. Whatever that thing might be. It might not even be a relationship. It might be some kind of I don't even know. It could be a number of things. But a what if thinking scenario of something negative, something harmful that may happen to you could be a very triggering thing for you to get into a trade that has no real sound reason to be in it. And you're looking at it with the expectation, if it pays out, this is a better use of my time than sitting around worrying about something that may or may not even happen. And I have done that. And I have blown accounts in a 20-year-old mindset I was fearful of a lot of things that never fucking happened. I had so many unrealistic fears. What if this happens? What if that happens? What if this happens? And none of it ever happened. It never happened. But they were so overwhelming to me at the time that it forced me to take on trades and take on risk, hoping that if I got paid out correctly on the other side of that trade, at least it was better than me sitting there twiddling my thumbs in fear of what may not or may come. The uncertainty of what if thinking is paralyzing. But when it's not paralyzing, it's the instigation to take you into a gambling environment. Think about it. I promise you, if you do some serious soul searching, you could go back to those times where you blew your accounts, where you've done serious damage and drawdown in your accounts. You've probably many times been in that same circumstance and not even realized it. And the only way I identified it is because I was journaling it. And these same circumstances kept coming up when I blew the account. These things were there. So they may, at the time, they don't feel like they're all that impactful. They're not the real problem. When they are, you're just trying to push them to the side. You're letting them be the guy, when you're out there with your friends and stuff, like, hey, yeah, and someone looks at you funny. And your drunk friend says, hey, yo, this guy's giving you the eye, man. You gonna let him do that? It's nothing. It's no big deal. And you look over at him, he's just, whatever. And then your buddy says, hey, keep that shit up. My boy's gonna beat your ass. Well, what did this happen? You weren't trying to do nothing. You're just out there having a good time, but your drunk buddy, Carl, fucking opened his mouth up. Now you're in a fight. You got to defend yourself when there was really nothing there. There was no real static there. That's what these types of thoughts will do for you. They'll put you in circumstances that you really aren't comfortable in. But because idle hands, you push the button. Because sitting still and not doing something when you're not disciplined, when you don't have self-control, which is something that you have to wrestle and form and forge over time. Nobody walks out in this industry and has self-confidence, self-control, and responsibility in the beginning. Those characteristics and those traits are developed over time. Losing money, making money, losing money, making money, learning what you're doing wrong, trimming all that stuff that is problematic. This is not a hard business to be profitable in, but it's a hard business to be organized and disciplined in. Because there's so many things that could take you right out of consistently profitable and wreck you right away. Because it's you as a person. You're a human being. You have emotions. You have psychological weights placed on you because of relationships inside this industry and outside this industry. And the more people you allow in your circle of influence, be it social media, your family members, your coworkers, the more you allow that in, the more likely you're going to be placed in pressured circumstances to perform when there's no need to. There's no need to. But when you step out there in social media and you have other people telling you what you should and shouldn't do, and you give these people that have no real control over your life, if you do it wrong, they're not going to pay you to make your ends meet because they wanted you to do something like it's a UFC fight or it's a sporting event. Perform for me. Fuck you. Go watch somebody else do that shit. You don't need to do those things for those people. You're running a business. Does the CEO of Netflix go out and go on social media, hey, what should I do today? They're not doing that. Believe me, trust me, look at what they've done. They don't do that, okay? They make their own policies, and right or wrong, they're going with it. But they're not letting even their customer base tell them how they should do things when they should. You as a trader, you incorporated, you have to be in control of everything at all times. And you can't let these opportunities that will cause you to do reckless things, to invite you to do the most ill-advised things while risking money. That's like you would never jump out of a perfectly working airplane, but hey, the girl that you love says she wants to do it and she wants to have a moment in life with you. Now you're contemplating it. You're scared shitless, but you're still contemplating it now. Man, if I don't do it, what is she going to think of me? When it should have been, honey, that is extremely brave of you. And I hope you respect the fact that I don't have wings and I don't want to be up there challenging the outcome of me opening that parachute and then opening and carrying me down safely to the ground. I will watch in the safety of how you do that. And I will applaud you when you land safely. Okay. But I'm not doing that. And you shouldn't fear their response. They shouldn't push you into that. But what's really going to happen? You're going to be worrying about whether or not you do this or don't do this and how they're going to think, especially if you're dating them brand new in a relationship. You'll do anything. You'll fight a guy you know damn well you probably get your ass beat by him, but you can't look like a weakling in front of her. Get some beer muscles, some liquid muscles. Go get to the bar and get, I'm gonna have to deal with this guy later on tonight before the bar closes. So let me get some liquid courage in me. And that way, if I do get my ass beat, at least I'm numbed up. You can't have that mindset in trading. You can't do that. Now, my son didn't go to those extremes. When you're not making a living, you're not building wealth playing a video game. And you're not losing your home, your livelihood, your life savings when you lose a game, when you lose a video game tournament. Okay, big deal. It's ego and it's pride. That's it. But in this, you could lose more than you have put in. Things can go wrong real quick, especially in today's climate. All the things that's going around the world, man, it could cause real quick, sudden market movements, and your stop loss didn't do a good enough job. And now, where are you going to get that money from? If you're trading with real money, live funds, it can take more than you have. If you present the opportunities for it, you didn't take the full position off, but you had something like that happen 2 times. Is that not better than your full week income? Yes. So why is that not something to start with? Because I was listening to you and I thought, no. Why is it not enough? Because I want to make a lot of money. Right. Everybody does. Everybody listening to me right now wants to make a lot of money. Some of you have made a lot of money and you want to learn how to make a lot more. But you have to start somewhere. And you have to have some kind of humble beginning. And humble beginning is not an embarrassment. It's nothing to be embarrassed about. And this is the reason why I tell you stop inviting social media fuckwads into your career. You're at the early stages. Why would you invite someone to tell you what you should or should not do when they brought nothing to the table as a alternative with proof that what they're telling you to do is going to work? But it's human nature. Just like the water cooler in the morning when you get to work. You want to get there early, not because you love your employer. You want to get there so you can bullshit with your coworkers and listen to the shit that they're going to talk about. You want to hear them bitch about how their wife didn't let them go to the game. You want to hear them bitch about how they had to do yard work. And that way it reminds you, hey, I'm not the only guy that has to go through that stuff. Somebody else, all the guys that are living, in another household, another neighborhood, working in the same place I am, they're going through the same stuff like me. So I'm part of the herd. No, there is no herd mentality. You are an apex predator. You're outside the herd. You're picking these motherfuckers off. You don't want to be a part of the herd. You have to think differently. You have to behave differently. Everything in a herd gets consumed. They're food. Now, if you want to walk around like a sheep, like cattle, and waiting for your time to get picked off, and you're welcome to do that. And I told my son, I said, what are you? What are you? Are you a sheep or are you a wolf? Which is it going to be? Because you can exist for a long time in this life as a sheep, going to work, letting someone tell you it's time to go over here, it's time to go over there. And you'll look at them as, oh, they're a good shepherd to me. They provide a good life. They give me a good job. I got a good job. Fuck your good job. I don't want your job. There is no job out there that I want. And none of them is good enough for my son. None of them are good enough for any of my sons. I don't want them working for anyone. I want them to be able to write the check that they want every week based on their own efforts, their own steam, and managing the risks. And knowing that they may not get the win that they wanted. They may not pan out. They may have a loss, but it ain't going to cause them to go on tilt and just completely wreck themselves. But you don't know what it's like to think about those things in the beginning. The only thing you're thinking is all the upside. And the ones that are conscious about the risk, that keeps them from wanting to do anything because they're afraid. And that's where he's at right now, because he put money in out of his own pocket to do these resets. And he felt like that was recklessness, and it was. And he doesn't want to do that whole thing all over again and be reminded of it didn't work for him. It didn't work for him. Someone said, there's a way to do this. And it's going to be a lot harder now for you because you have this mental scar tissue, which is exactly why I was trying to teach you the way I was teaching you. So that way you wouldn't have these things. Just like when you are listening to me now in these Twitter spaces, just when you're watching those videos on YouTube, and I'm talking about the things that are outside the chart that you're going to have to deal with, whether you like it or not. They're conversations that you need to have, preferably before you get to that situation that I'm talking about. Because many times you're not going to have the skill sets or the coping mechanisms to get you through it unscathed. You're going to hurt yourself. And then you're going to go back and listen to a video. Oh, I wish I would have watched that video. I wish I would have heard that. You heard it. You're just in denial. You didn't listen to it because you thought you were going to be the exception to the rule. And you're not. All of us are human. All of us have frailties and issues with us. Mine, a lot more than some of you. But all of this can be managed. But you got to start with a very, very small, low-hanging fruit objective and be content with a little bit in the beginning. Because here's the thing. What happens if you could only just make $250 per trade? Think about it. What happens if that's the best you could arrive at? Every trade that you take, the best you could get is $250. Is that a failure? Now, some of you, especially the young men, be like, oh, pfft, come on, man, I ain't doing trading if it's just that much. That's exactly how I thought about it too. In 1992, that Christmas, I'm sitting there thinking, man, I gotta at least make $500 per trade, and I would not accept anything less. If it was a $400 win or I got stopped out and it was $375, I looked at that as a loss. In my mind, I treated that as a losing trade. And I was programming myself to expect and demand my full pull. And anything less was a failure. Now, who was I to do that? A dumb shit. Somebody that had no idea what he was doing. And I was brainwashing myself into thinking that profitability at any measure was counterproductive, wasteful, insignificant. And that's what you're doing probably with a lot of things in trading. It wasn't until I started understanding high frequency trading algorithms that their whole function was to go in and take very small bites of the market frequently all day long. Now, when the developers of an algorithm sit down and they contemplate how they want to go in and engage market, they're not in there saying the trade has to be $500. They're not doing that. They are looking for small little snippets in price delivery that they know absolutely they can get dozens, not one time a day, dozens per time. I'm sorry, dozens per day. Think about that. Now think about what you're trying to do. Think about what you go into my content trying to squeeze out and say, this is what I have to do. That's not my problem. That's your problem. You're trying to present a feat, some outcome that may not be applicable for you in your understanding or your present ability. So go back to a simple approach to thinking, okay, if I could get $250, $250. You want to here's the fallacy in this, because when I first started understanding this, Larry Williams talked about this a lot in a lot of his systems. At the time in the 90s, he was wanting a trade or a model, a system, if you will, to be able to pay at least $350 per trade. Wait a minute. Did you just say Mr. Larry Williams, Mr. $10,000 to $1.2 million in the Robbins Cup in 1987? That guy said he wants to make at least $350 per trade, or he's not really interested. That means he's not even getting a full handle in the S&P back then, because it was $500 per handle. But because I was listening to that stuff, and it was a lot of number crunching, and it was very simplistic rules that made no sense to me, and many of them I still don't have any affinity for. But he had an approach that he wanted to take on, and it had to have this much in terms of back testing, saying it results and yields this much in terms of profit per trade. If you can find a setup that yields $250, that $250 can be scaled to whatever the fuck you want it to be. What's $250? That's 5 handles. What happens if you get 5 handles over the course of a week and that's all you got? Is that a bad week? Now, some of you jokers out there, this guy's talking about making $250 a week. Right, but you're the same person that's blowing your shitty ass account live on live stream, and we all watched you do it. $250 more than you had at the beginning of the week is still $250. If you were broke and had someone hand you $250, you'd be appreciative, right? If you just did that in the beginning, I'm not saying your whole career is this, but in the beginning, if you started with that mindset and all you were able to scrape out over the course of the entire week because you did not push real hard, because you know that you're not ready to do that. You might want to win a lot every day. You want to be able to trade every single day. But that's not realistic because you don't have the skill set to do that. And I'm reminding my son that he doesn't have to do this every day. He needs to tape read. He needs to execute in front of me because he needs to be conditioned and desensitized from the fear he has placed on himself because of unrealistic expectations being acted upon. He tried to do it his own way. Well,